Okay.
Hello, it's me again. It's been 2 hours since I've taken my pill for the DRD. As you can see, A, I can talk. B, my head is not bobbing like a bobblehead. As far as reaching for stuff, my arm is completely steady, just like my right arm is. I can put my arm above my head, which, when the pill's not having effect, the most I could do is raise it to my shoulder. Another one of the noticeable things I see all the time is the fact that this shoulder should be roughly level with this shoulder. The rest of the time it's trying to crawl into my ear, more like this. It's even hard to mimic. My walk doesn't really have any major change to it, but that's for other reasons. When this first took effect, it was about 5 years ago that I noticed. I woke up one day and I got out of bed and I couldn't move my left leg. I was able to stand on it, but some point during the night I had forgotten how to move my leg to walk. That day it took me about 15 to 20 minutes just to get down the hallway, because I had to literally drag and focus all my mental energy to get my leg just to move one step at a time. It took me a while to teach myself to walk, but during this process, I then noticed my arm had also stopped moving and became less responsive. Then I noticed that I couldn't raise my arm past my shoulder. This was about as high as I could get it. I couldn't raise it above my head. Over the years that followed, since it's been about 5 years that this has been going on, I noticed the twitching, or I'm not sure what else they call it, the jerking of my arm became more and more pronounced. In my eyes, as long as I didn't move it, I felt normal. This side also lost a lot of its pain receptors. I could walk for hours, limp for hours and hours, and this side, this leg, won't feel a thing, whereas my good side, it will be screaming in pain going, "Are you kidding me? Let's stop walking," you know? What else to say? The neck started about 3.5, 4 years ago, with slight bobs every once in a while, and has progressed to the point of what you saw in the first video. The stutter also was very minor at times, and then progressed and progressed. But this is me. I can actually talk on these pills. I can actually hold my head up straight. I can rotate it and move it at will. The biggest miracle or most amazing thing about the pill, or the effects of it is literally the fact that I can move my arm without any problems. Small cap on a little bottle of hot sauce. For example, before I was knocking over bottles just to pick up a pair of tweezers or nail clippers. Now I can take tiny little things and place them precisely because my arm is not twitching at all. Oops. Well, didn't say everything balanced perfectly, but it's a huge improvement over what I could do before. The pills work. Right now I'm still fiddling with dosage. I have to contact my neurologist to prescribe them to find out how much it should be increased by. Because as it is, it takes 2 hours to take effect, whereas it's supposed to take 1 hour to take effect. It should last up to 8 hours. The first day that I took it, it did last up to 8 hours, which I was very impressed with. But I built up a bit of a tolerance to it in a very short period of time. And now it takes 2 hours to take effect and will last up to 3 hours, 4 if it's pushing it. But when it wears off, a lot of those symptoms you see or saw in the first video will come back with a vengeance, especially when the pill completely wears off. I get lock wrist, where my hand will be in like this and literally fingers will lock up, and I got to pry my hand outwards like that. Doesn't always happen. It's one of the new things. Before all of this occurred, I suffered from chest pains, still do, hasn't been treated, hasn't been diagnosed yet. Could be related, maybe not. I was taking bisoprolol and propofenone under the guise from the cardiologist that it was possibly arrhythmia, even though technically it was never fully diagnosed. And when they found out it wasn't arrhythmia by giving me a stress test, I was dropped like a hot potato. And shortly afterwards is when this all started. That was 5-6 years ago. Right now my family doctor is also concerned because for the past 10 years, apparently I've had extremely high liver enzymes. Again, may or may not be related. I have no idea. All of this is new as far as diagnosis. The DRD, Dopa Responsive Dystonia, is new to me. I've looked it up out of curiosity because I was told if the pill worked, then that is technically what I most likely had, even though it was extremely rare. Now, as far as rare is concerned, in the medical industry, 1 in 2,000 is considered rare. If something affects 1 in every 2,000 people, it's rare. This supposedly affects 1 in 2 million people, majority of which are female. Also, it is supposedly a genetic disorder, which apparently I'm the first one in my family to show any of these symptoms, which means Lord knows where that came from. Usually starts when you're a child, and progressively gets worse throughout your life. Whereas mine all kind of came crashing down in the past 5 years. Which, and as I'm a male, would make me the extremely rare entity of this disorder. I've had other neurologists say that after doing MRIs, that I have vascularitis in my cerebellum, and my cerebellum had, according to them, had a significant reduction in size, or at least noticeable reduction in size. Vascularitis, I believe, is basically reduction in the blood flow or something along that. I got to look it up with some more. On top of that, my neurologist that I have here, he did a spinal tap and found out that I've got proteins in my spinal fluid, so higher than normal. All of this might be contributing factors. I'm doing this video for those people that have the symptoms, don't know what they are, and have been going through same thing as myself, where it was, I had 3 different neurologists all test me for the same thing, and all of them came back with the same answer that, no, I do not have, what was it?
MS.
MS, yeah, no MS. What a surprise. The fact that 3 doctors all said the same thing in 3 different provinces, and 3 different specialists. So I knew it wasn't MS. It's not Parkinson's, because that is another genetic thing that doesn't run in the family, and would have been more prominent had it run in the family. Would have been there much sooner in my life. This was a shot in the dark, the pill and the effects, that it would cure. I'm glad that the specialist suggested it, just because of the fact that by taking the medication, at least for the next 2 to 3 hours, I can be relatively normal, at least from the left knee up, because I still have the limp, but at least I can talk. To be able to have a conversation with a person without stuttering is a huge plus. To be able to move my arm and use my arm freely, that is a huge plus, because this, I couldn't, do this. Reaching something on the top shelf was always a challenge for the past couple of years. My neck is given a bit of a break because of the fact that it's constantly, without the medication, fighting to either stay up straight while I'm trying to look at something that's not the floor, or trying to look somebody in the eye, all of which exacerbate the problems. This is a wonderful thing. I'm not saying it's a cure-all. If the illness I have is DRD, then technically it is something that will get worse over time. Starting next week, I will be undergoing physiotherapy. This video will also be useful to show what I'm like when I'm not on the medication, or when the medication wears off, in case the doctors don't believe me when I go in, because they'll look at it and go, oh, I thought you were unable to do anything. Well, the problem with the pill is, as I said, it lasts 2 to 3 hours now. So for those 2 to 3 hours, I get relief. And it's a great thing. don't get me wrong, but there are times where it doesn't fully kick in, doesn't fully work. There are times where the activities I've undergone are too much for my system to handle even with the medication, so my system will crash quite hard. But before the medication, I didn't get the relief that I get now, and I would have the same sort of crash. Going to see a movie would be too much for my brain to handle. And I'd come out of the movie and my whole system would crash. Literally to the point where if I was lucky, I made it to my bed. Or at least to my room and my recliner so that I could pass out and reset. Reset could take anywhere from 30 minutes to hours and hours. The longest reset was 12 hours, and that was after I had gotten an 8-hour night's sleep and had only been active for 6 hours. And I woke up 12 hours later and was at least somewhat back to a tolerable level. But this is dumbfounding for me. My mom was shocked. I was shocked. My sister is surprised. Everybody that I know who's seen me like this, or has seen me not like this, but seen me before the pill takes effect, is dumbfounded by the results. I guess that makes me the ultra rare test subject or study subject for people. I don't know how many papers have been written on this disorder, but hey, I'm game if you're willing to want to study something that's extremely rare and you can possibly help. Great. Otherwise, for all those people out there who are suffering like I have been going through for the past several years, I've kept a positive attitude just because I found it humorous. Because every doctor I saw would see the symptoms and just walk away. They just did not want to touch me. They didn't want to help. Those that did start to help somehow always managed to disappear just as they got started helping, which I always found odd and kind of built my own conspiracy theory around. But this is why I'm happy that I finally am getting treatment. Now, it took 3 years of me being here and having to move home to Nova Scotia. I used to live in Montreal, but as it progressed, I found I couldn't live on my own because I wasn't sure how far it was going to go or how bad it was going to get. And as you saw from the video before, it has gotten pretty bad. So I'm glad I moved back. But while I was here, I did get a neurologist, but it took me 3 years to find a family doctor. And I needed to find a family doctor in order for my neurologist to give me the referrals so that I could see the specialists who would then give me the referrals to now get physiotherapy and speech therapy to hopefully be able to manage this. Well, all the side effects that you saw in the previous video, whether the medication is working or not working, because anything should help. Again, I'm quite pleased. I have hobbies, which to some people seem rather, how can you do that type of thing. I like to skateboard. When asked by one of my doctors how I was able to skateboard, I simply pointed out that my difficulty is walking, but standing is very easy to do. lean forward, lean back. Hence, skateboarding, very easy to do, even with my arm or my neck, etc. But with my neck, as far as it's concerned, before the medication, this was my secret weapon. Headphones. Because just like my neck pillow, I could prop them underneath my head to keep my head from bobbing around. And it worked. So can I stand on a piece of wood while it moves? Yes. I've also taken up horseback riding. Because I found when I was around horses, a lot of the side effects calmed down. Plus, sitting on a horse is actually really easy because you're just sitting on a horse. And my recent horse riding lessons have been pretty much me just sitting on a horse going in circles for an hour, which is pretty easy. So, but do I like my hobbies? Yes. Now that I'm on the medication, and as you can see, I've got a nice supply. Should last me 2 months. I will enjoy horseback riding even more so because I can use both hands. I don't always have to be looking at the ground.